Hi guys, Miss Venable here, bringing you a quick tutorial to go along with the moles chalk lab. And one of the things you have to do is you have to convert from grams of how much chalk that we left on the sidewalk and figure out how many formula units of particles of calcium carbonate that would be equivalent to. And so that's actually a two-step mole conversion. We're going to work on those a little bit more next week, but I wanted to preview that a little bit and show you what we could do with this chalk lab. So the question is, if you know how many grams of chalk you put on the sidewalk, can you convert that to particles? And it actually takes two steps. The first thing you're going to do is convert the grams of chalk into moles. And then you're going to do another conversion factor where you convert the moles into particles. So we have been learning those two conversion factors, and now I'm just going to show you kind of how we can put it all together. We're going to do it in a really slick way and just do it all in one line. So I've set up the boxes already on the screen, and we're just going to follow the steps of writing down conversion factors. So step one is just to write the given. And so I'm going to be lazy here, and I'm just going to copy and paste the number of grams of chalk. And this is data that you will have taken on your lab, and you will have that data on your report sheet. So you can just copy down how many moles of chalk you had. Okay, so that's always step one. Now you do need to say grams of what substance. So I'm going to put in the CaCO. And to do subscripts in these Google drawings, you have to go to Format, Text, Subscript, and type in the 3. But you really only need to do that once, because then you can copy and paste it after that. Let me make this text a little bit smaller so you guys can actually see it. Okay, so we wrote down our given, and now what we're going to do is convert that to moles. And once you've converted it into moles, it's kind of nice because you can kind of convert it into other stuff. So step one here is we're going to apply step one. We did that. Step two is to write down a conversion factor. And so on our first conversion factor, we're just going to try to convert, take that molar mass and the moles and use this conversion factor. Because we always can convert between grams and moles as long as we know the molar mass. So you just have to make a unique molar mass for whatever substance you're trying to do. So I'll just put here for CaCO3, what we have to do is add up the masses of a calcium, a carbon, and 3 oxygens. So for CaCO3, I would get out my periodic table, and I would say, what is the mass of calcium, carbon, and 3 oxygens? Okay, so calcium, if I remember correctly, has a mass of 40.08. Let me double check. Yes, it does. Carbon has a mass of 12.01, and oxygen has a mass of 16. So I'm just reading the masses off of my periodic table. So let me show you how we would add those up. So we take the 40.08, that's for the calcium, and we'd add that to the 12.01, that's for the carbon. And then we have 3 oxygens. So what we have to do for the oxygens is actually multiply 3 times the mass for each of those. So it's 3 times 16. Okay, for the oxygens, I'll put that in parentheses. So if I type it in my calculator here, it's going to give me the molar mass that I need to use in my conversion factor. Now, if you don't have a calculator handy at home, another thing you can do is install this great little extension here, and it puts a scientific calculator, and you can pin it into your toolbar at the top. So I installed this great little scientific calculator extension off of the Google Chrome store, and then I pinned it to the top of my my screen. And the way you pin stuff is you click on the little puzzle piece, and you can go down and find the extension and just hit the little push pin button, and it'll pin it to the top of your screen so you always have it. So I did my calculation, and I got that the mass, molar mass of 1 mole of calcium carbonate would be 100.09. And we should all get the same thing for that, because we all use chalk for that lab. So once you've kind of figured out the molar mass of your chalk, then you have a conversion factor that's going to allow you to convert back and forth between grams and moles. So I'm just going to change our conversion factor here. So instead of saying molar mass, I'm actually going to use the actual molar mass of our calcium carbonate. Okay, so now I'm ready to copy and paste that conversion factor. So we have 1 mole of X, which is calcium carbonate, equals 1.009 grams of X. So I have to figure out what I want to put on the top and what I want to put on the bottom. And the way you decide this every time you're trying to put in a conversion factor, look and see what you need to cancel. Okay, so I want to cancel the grams because I'm trying to convert grams to moles in this first step. And actually, I can just make that a G for grams. So I'm going to take the 10.009 grams and I'm going to paste it into the denominator here. Okay, so now that says grams of X. And of course, I don't want it to be grams of X. Okay, X is nothing. X stands for whatever chemical compound you're working with. So I'm going to make that say calcium carbonate, since that's the molar mass. Okay, and on the other side, you're going to put the other half of the conversion factor, which is what you want to know. And what I want to know in this first step is just how many moles. Okay, so I'm going to have 1 mole. And again, I need to put my calcium carbonate in there. You have to have the quantity and the unit and the substance. So I have to say calcium carbonate. I can't not say that. It has to be in every box. Okay, so what's going to happen here, this is just like we've done before, is units are going to cancel. And this is going to convert the grams, cancel out the grams of calcium carbonate, and it's going to cancel the grams of calcium carbonate. And now what I've done is I've converted it into moles. So the only unit I have left is moles. That's great. So I'm not done yet. Okay, that would be what you did in the first step. But now what I'm asking you to do is take it another step further and take those moles and convert them into particles. So this is what we learned for Avogadro's number. If you look at the conversion factor between particles and moles, it says 1 mole equals 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd particles. So we can use that as a conversion factor, and we can write it in the second box. This time, though, we want the moles to cancel out, and we want to convert it into particles. So if I look at, I say, okay, moles is in the top here. That's what I want to cancel. So I'm going to look at that conversion factor. 1 mole of X equals 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. I want to put the 1 mole in the denominator, like that. And of course, we can't say X. X is just any old thing. We're going to say what our substance is, which is calcium carbonate. So I'm going to paste that into 1 mole of calcium carbonate. Okay. And what's going to happen is the moles are going to cancel. So we're going to convert it to particles. Okay. So now let's put in the other half of the conversion factor. So 1 mole is always going to have 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd particles. And all we have to do is say what type of particles, right? Because we can't say the word particles. Particles is just a general term. Our particles could be atoms. They could be molecules. Or if it's a salt, we would call them formula units. And that's what we have here. Calcium carbonate is a salt because it starts with a metal. So we're not going to use the word particles X. We're instead going to say formula units, which you can abbreviate FUs. And then we'll put in our calcium carbonate. I'll paste in my calcium carbonate substance here. Alrighty. Make that box a little bigger so you can see it. Move it up to the top so you can really see it. Okie doke. So now we've set everything up. Let me cancel the moles of calcium carbonate. Okay, so moles of calcium carbonate is the same as moles of calcium carbonate. And now that the moles have canceled out, you have converted it to the formula units, which is what they asked. They wanted to know how many particles, or FUs, of calcium carbonate would there be. So at this point, you're ready to do your calculation. And I'm going to show you how to do it on this calculator. So we're going to multiply across the top. We can skip ones, they're understood. So I'm going to multiply 2.58 times 6.022. And then I have to put in the scientific notation part. So on the paper, it says times 10 to the 23rd power, but I'm going to use this EE button. That way my calculator will know that it's all one number. When I divide, it won't mess up my order of operations. Okay, so that's the top multiplied. You're going to divide by whatever's on the bottom. And again, you can skip ones. So I just need you to divide everything on the top by 100.09. So I'm going to divide by 100.09. That's my molar mass. And we will hit enter. Okay, and you see on your screen, it gives you 1.55 E22. So make sure you write that correctly. You can't write the E. So you have to write times 10 to the 23rd power. Okay, and then your unit is FUs because that's the only unit that didn't cancel out. And you do have to say the calcium carbonate once again. So thanks so much for joining me to learn how to do these two-step mole conversions. We're going to work on that a lot more next week. And feel free to take a look at my exemplar. Thanks so much.